Hi, I'm nervous, and today we're having a Casual Friday video where I will be going over some key points in RyeToast's more recent theory, I was wrong about the FNAF timeline. It should be up on the screen somewhere right now, as well as a point that they made in their podcast episode from 9 days ago as of recording this. The early parts of the FNAF timeline are complicated. That will also be around here for you to peruse. It won't be a typical React video. I'm not going to have it up on screen while I'm talking about it or whatever. We're not going through the whole thing. So I'll play, the relevant things and then we'll talk about it and that'll be that, because I don't want to take away from the work as a whole and I would love for you to go watch it yourself if you haven't. If you're new here, what a weird video to start with, but welcome. I would love it if you would join the nervous system and subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it. Actually, that like thing, that's for everybody. You don't have to be new here to like the video. And if you're not new here and you haven't subscribed, will you? Would you? Could you? For me? Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. When RyeToast released this theory that we're going to be talking about today, I got some comments in my most recent video about Lefty and the origins of Lefty. If you haven't seen that, it's around. One of them was just like, oh, I'm really, really excited for you to see what you have to say about RyeToast's theory. And I was like, ooh. And another person was like, you need to go look at this because they're saying like almost the exact same thing that you're saying right now. And I was like, I was pretty excited about that. As a theorist in this space, the fact that two people agree on anything at all is pretty miraculous. And when I watched the theory, I was pretty shocked to hear almost word for word some of the things that I said in my video. I was ecstatic. So we're going to go over that, but first I want to make a small point that I was really excited about from his video. So we're going to go over that first. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was RyeToast, and this is really quick, just mentioning that 1985 for the missing children's incident was a point that they had argued against or ignored in the past.
I've dismissed it in the past, but it is notable that every iteration of the missing child incident in the books takes place in 1985.
Seeing this was just validating to me as a theorist. If you watched my 2 Fridays ago video as of this one, where I'm reacting to your comments on my other theories and kind of going over some things that I wish I had said in those past theories, you'll know that one of my big points was that somebody called me out for kind of ignoring the fact that 1985 is the confirmed date for the missing children's incident. They came to the same general conclusion as I did, where it's like, it's the only date we have for it, and especially now that the Into the Pit video game is being made, it's hard to argue against that date unless we have another one or can really solidify why the book date doesn't matter. But I just appreciated that they mentioned that, because for some reason I felt just a lot of guilt over it, like my integrity or something like that was being challenged, I suppose, and I felt bad about it, and that made me feel a lot better about it, because I was like, okay, other people have issues with this too. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point, but I was just really happy that they pointed that out. It made me feel less alone. So thank you for that. Now we will move on to the thing that I was talking about before I went off on this little side tangent. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to play my words from the Lefty video, and then I'm going to play RyeToast's words from their I was wrong about the FNAF timeline video, and you can kind of hear for yourself how similar it is. We come to different conclusions from the framework that we're using, but we're using very similar framework. I just want you to hear it before I talk about it, so let's listen to it. But that does leave the question of what he means by prisons of my own making, set to new purpose, and used in ways I never thought imaginable. The immediate assumption is, of course, that he is speaking about the original MCI victims and they're being stuffed inside the animatronics. But that wouldn't explain them being set to new purpose. Okay, so he's speaking about the fun times being used in ways he never thought imaginable. But in that case, they aren't prisons of his own making. The only way this entire quote works is if Henry feels somehow responsible for the fun times specifically being made, either because he created them, which I'm not completely against as a concept, or because he created their predecessor. Something that's always bothered me about the Fun Times is that William has never been characterized by his technological or engineering prowess. That was always Henry's end of the business. William was a brilliant marketer and businessman, but not an inventor. So how would he be able to build these advanced animatronics with mechanisms for luring, capturing, and transporting children? Well, he learned it from Henry.
After all, in the Silver Eyes, Henry Emily was always the mastermind of animatronics. William Afton was obsessed with how good he was at this and practically studied harder to be better than him in any way he could. Henry Emily was the genius. One of the lines in the Insanity ending never stuck with me quite right.
Small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose, and used in ways I never thought imaginable.
The standard understanding of this line is Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. After all, those were definitely created by Henry Emily. Well, I say definitely, probably created by Henry Emily, and the souls are imprisoned inside of them. But there's one issue with that. Now set to new purpose and used in ways I never thought imaginable. What does that mean? The Freddy's crew, to my knowledge, were not set to new purposes and used in ways never thought imaginable. You could argue that melting them down as fuel for remnant experiments is using them in a way never thought imaginable. But I wouldn't argue that that's setting them to a new purpose. What if in that moment, he's talking about the Funtime animatronics?
So we came to different conclusions from those points. I was talking about how that could mean that Lefty comes earlier in the timeline, Henry makes Lefty, and that becomes the inspiration for the Fun Times for William. And they're proposing that Henry made the Fun Times, at least the original versions of them, and then they were upgraded. Or maybe he was making them that whole time and is in the picture longer as a business partner to William Afton, longer than maybe we originally thought. They had the similar issue that I did about the Fun Times looking like they came later in the timeline. It was frustrating because it seemed like there are a lot of ways that Circus Baby's Pizza World could have been opened earlier. It was a big thunder. Basically, it's similar to the way I feel about how the Funtime animatronics look newer, but the Circus Baby's Pizza World seems to have been opened earlier in the timeline, and they took some time to clarify something that I feel the same way about, where Circus Baby's Pizza World could have come earlier in the timeline, and then there's a gap in time before Circus Baby's Pizza rental, or Circus Baby's rental and entertainment. I'm losing it, y'all. To take a moment to be completely candid with you, I don't know where in the video this shows up, but this is my 4th attempt filming this week's video. It is 10 o'clock on Thursday night, and I upload on Fridays at 4 o'clock. It just started storming, and my neighbor's dog will not stop barking. My first attempt on Tuesday didn't work. My second attempt on Wednesday was foiled by my internet being out because I hadn't downloaded the videos yet. And I had rehearsal on Tuesday and Wednesday night for a show I'm in right now. And today I tried to film at lunch, but the footage was so bad and my cat kept jumping up and messing with my microphone. I was rushing. I've been worrying about my dog all day because he had his surgery to get fixed yesterday. So it's been a hectic week. There's been a lot going on at my job. It's been a lot. It's just been a lot this week. I guess I'm just asking for some grace from you this week, and know that I am putting a lot of energy into my videos. It's just, this week has been kind of crazy. I'm gonna get into it, or we're already in it, or you just watched it, or whatever happened, wherever I am. I'm sorry. And I hope that this was at least somewhat entertaining for you. That's all I can say. Basically, what they did in their video that I really appreciated and I agree with a lot is that just because Circus Baby's Pizza World closes and then Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rentals opens, they don't have to open right next to each other. Like, one doesn't have to close and the other one opens. It can be a gap of time. And that was very kind of similar to some things that I said in my Lefty video as well. Okay, add my phone unexpectedly restarting while I'm trying to film and erasing some of my footage to the list of things that have gone wrong while I'm just trying to make a freaking video. RyeToast's makes this point about the speech, Henry's speech, and how he is maybe responsible for the Fun Times because he made them. And I drew a different conclusion, that it was Lefty that was the first, and then William used Lefty's design as inspiration for the Fun Times. Whether or not Henry made those, neither here nor there, but that was my line of thinking. The reason that I think it makes more sense to be Lefty that's first rather than the Fun Times is because Lefty is made to capture the puppet, so he's not making the Fun Time animatronics to capture children, but he still makes the mechanism that is the luring, capturing, that kind of energy, right? And that's like why he feels responsible for the Fun Times and is seeing that as set to new purpose, because he did that to save his daughter, presumably, or study her or whatever. He was working with good intentions, but it got changed to bad intentions later. But even if you agree with RyeToast's interpretation, I still think Lefty is kind of a piece of that puzzle. To me, Lefty is still a piece of that because it shows proof that Henry could have built the Fun Times because he made Lefty. You can see how he would be willing or capable of putting those things together. It could work as an evidence point for Henry building the Fun Times, regardless of whether or not you think Lefty or the Fun Times came first. They can still be inspirations for each other, one or the other, depending on which direction you think that goes. I still think it makes more sense for Lefty to come first, but I also understand why if the puppet dies later, obviously. Depends on the order of events that you're going with, but I'm just putting that out there, and I really, really appreciated hearing them explore those parts of Henry's speech. I also saw somebody in the comments give another explanation. I cannot find it. I'm sorry, I didn't save it at the time. It just stuck in my head. When he says set to new purpose, he means he's talking about how the animatronics were like animals and they were just like following William Afton's instructions and doing his bidding, and how they became like vessels for those things. And that's the set to new purpose part of that. So it could still be the original 4, which is an interesting and valid interpretation of that. There's a lot more to their theory, so obviously that's not the crux of it, but that was a really good point where we kind of overlapped on our thinking, was really like parallel to each other. Like we were really working on the same framework for our theory, and it was just so interesting that their theory came out the literal day after mine. So it was just fun. It was fun. For the last part of this video, I just want to play a clip from RyeToast's podcast, episode 21, the Freddy Fazbear Pizza podcast on RyeToast's channel. It's fun. This episode I kind of wish I had not watched until I made my next video, but basically this is another instance of RyeToast and my brains being very close to the same sort of thought process. They kind of have an epiphany about Michael and then allude to a video that later they end up confirming that that's what their next video is going to be. It was also what my next theory video was going to be, and now I'm afraid to make that video because of this, but just go ahead and listen and then we'll discuss.
Oh no. Wait, is that what the FNAF movie is trying to tell us? I don't think the FNAF movie is canon to the games at all, obviously. But we directly see William Afton commanding his child to work for him, and his child eventually betraying him. Is the relationship between William Afton and Vanessa a parallel between William Afton and Michael Afton?
So this was really the way that I have seen Michael for quite some time, Michael Afton, and his role within this series. Now I can say with utmost certainty, Rye's next video is going to be covering a lot of the same sort of ideas that were going to be in one of my next videos because of this tweet. I'm not going to decode it. You can do that for yourself, but ultimately it's clear their next video is going to be about Michael, and it's going to be going over Michael's sort of story. And the way they talk about it in the podcast through the lens of Vanessa and the movie and those motivations was the crux of my video. So now I'm in this position where I feel like I should make it because it's going to look like I'm basically making the exact same video as RyeToast, and that makes me uncomfortable as a creator. I just want to talk a little bit about my thoughts on Michael and ask you guys if it's still something you'd want to see a video about from me. Back when I uploaded my Into the Pit video, I said, this isn't the video I had planned for this week. I shot a whole completely separate video, but then this dropped and I really wanted to cover it while it was still timely. And basically I was exploring Michael's motivations throughout the games, using Vanessa and Mike from the movie as my sort of guide. Obviously, using the movie for lore purposes is really ill-advised. It's a different thing. but I was just going to be taking the relationships between characters and the themes that were present in the movie to say, like, see how well this works within the game world. Like, see how much there is a lot of overlap in these things. You heard Rye in the podcast. They came to that realization while they were thinking about Vanessa from the movies. That's why I think it's so fascinating, because I'm like, exactly, that's what they're telling us, or what they could be alluding to, or where Scott's mind was when he was writing the script. Creating the relationship that William Afton had with Michael, but putting a spin on it by making that Vanessa instead in the movie. I am so excited for their video to come out, but I'm not going to watch it until I decide whether or not I'm going to make my own Michael video. So basically, I just want to ask you guys, do you want to see what I have to say about Michael? There's tons of other stuff I can make videos on. I did see a comment asking that I should reach out to RyeToast's and compare notes. Basically, they suggested that, like, I reach out to Rye about the theory, that the lefty one. I don't know, there's something in it just feels like, it might just be my anxiety. I am always genuinely nervous. But I think that leads really well into kind of the last little thing I want to touch on here, which is just that being online in this capacity at any size, it's nerve-wracking, and I really do mean it when I say that I didn't expect my channel to gain as much traction as it has. Not that it's a crazy amount, but it's just a lot more than I expected, and I think in some ways I feel that pressure maybe more than I should. It matters to me. I enjoy performing. It's why I do theater. Outside of this, I just enjoy this sort of environment. So I put an amount of pressure on myself to perform the right way, which in a lot of ways I think is a good thing, but in this situation, I find myself a bit paralyzed and not knowing what to do next. I'm not making videos chasing the algorithm. I just don't feel like it. There were a number of videos where I would take my thumbnail and I would take my title into a program that would run it against other successful titles and thumbnails and tell you whether or not your things seemed like they would perform well, get clicks. Something about that was taking out what I do this for, which is for fun, because I love to, because it's my passion, because I enjoy it. And if other people, it doesn't take that away from them, like, that's totally fair. That's awesome. I love that for them. But because I already have a job where I'm spending a lot of time concerned about things like that, I didn't want to do it for my things that I do on my own. So I just don't want that to be how my channel goes. And I don't want the impression to be that, like, oh, I saw RyeToast make a video about Michael, so I'm going to make a video about Michael. Does that make sense? When you see she's always nervous, I pretty much really do mean that. As much as I can be very comfortable on the stage, the fact of the matter is that my anxiety still persists through that. The entire time I was writing, filming, and editing my lefty video, my stomach was in knots because I knew I was saying something kind of outlandish and maybe weird, and maybe that would be not very well received by the fandom. The reason that I choose that name, and the reason why that's kind of how I brand myself online, is because I don't want to hide the fact that through it all, I am battling very severe anxiety that makes it really hard to do anything. As I've said in a previous video, I don't fight my anxiety. I don't move against my anxiety. I move through it, move with it. I allow it to exist inside me because it does. It lives there. It's a part of me, and I don't want to hate it. But I don't want to let it be in control of everything I do all of the time either, because then I'd be in a very different place in my life. So I found a company that I feel comfortable doing theater with, and I found a community that I feel comfortable making YouTube videos for, and I put myself out there anyway. So I just kind of want to leave you with that today, I guess. It's not really what I planned on talking about when I first considered reacting to RyeToast's videos. It's just kind of where my mind ended up, where I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to be candid about how I feel and what's going on. Maybe it's just because I'm really busy in my life right now, but I still want to upload every Friday because I really enjoy having this creative outlet. And when I don't have a number of creative outlets in my life, I get sad, to be very blunt about it. I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that I really care about this channel. and everything that I put on it, and that I'm not going to let the way that I feel right now prevent me from saying the things I want to say. But I still want your input on what those things are, because there's a lot of things I could say. I could always make a Michael video later down the line if there's other things that I've kind of touched on that you would feel more interested in hearing about. I've ordered a lot of the FNAF books, and they're on their way from thrift books. If you ever want a cheaper way to get books, you don't have to get new books. You can buy used from thrift books, and they're great. I've never had a bad experience with them. There's a lot that I can talk about within this franchise, so I just kind of want to put it out there and just kind of let you guys help direct me right now so that I feel less paralyzed in this. And I hope that that's okay, that I'm being candid with you in that way. But really, that's it. And I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you didn't, just know that theories and other more deep divey sort of videos are on the way, in the works, as always. We're just doing some casual Friday videos every other week right now while I'm in a show, so that I can focus on other things as well. Like I said before, I would love to have you become a part of the nervous system if you're not already. If you're new here, or whether you've been watching for a little while but you haven't hit that subscribe button yet and turned on those bell notifications, I would just love it if you would do so. And if you are already a part of the nervous system, thank you so much. That is so swell. You are so kind to be a part of it. I'm so happy to have you here. Go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it, or if you just want to be nice and support me. Also, if you hear any rustling of my microphone at the end of this, it's because my cat is on my lap. I will be back next Friday, but if you can't wait, there are some videos on the screen right now just for you, and just so you don't feel robbed. Here she is. Hop. Go ahead, do it. I've been abandoned. Okay, bye.